3 years after Sung Gi-hun won the survival game known as Squid Game, he gave up on going to the United States to be reunited with his daughter in order to stop the mysterious and deadly games once and for all. Only, in his attempt to track down the game's recruiter, Gi-hun manages to get himself back into the games in order to try and stop them from the inside. Which admittedly does sound like a horrible plan, but Gi-hun has Detective Jun-ho tracking down his location from the outside. Yes, Jun-ho managed to survive his injuries from the Season 1 finale, and his team up with Sung Gi-hun may just be enough to finally put an end to the games. And you know what? I know this season has been met with mixed responses overall, and I'll admit that Season 2 is nowhere near as strong as its predecessor, but I actually really enjoyed this new season. Which was surprising, since I didn't think that Squid Game needed a second season in the first place. And since the show was never made with a second season in mind, I really felt this new season needed to justify its own existence. And obviously, I personally felt like it did that. Because picking up exactly where the first season left off, Season 2 begins with Sung Gi-hun looking for the Squid Game recruiter. Only, it takes a long ass time for Sung to actually find him. Like, 2 years long. But once he finally does find the elusive man, he's able to partner up with Jun-ho, who's like the only other person who knows of the game's existence. And Jun-ho is eager to stop the games since he knows that his brother is responsible for running them in the first place, which is a small detail that Sung Gi-hun has yet to figure out. And that's good for Jun-ho, since Sung would probably want to kill In-ho, or at least have him arrested for his crimes. Either way, Jun-ho keeps this information from Sung, which may come around to bite him in the ass later on in the season. But I'll get more into that in a second. For now, I will say that I think the first few episodes of Squid Game Season 2 started off really strongly. I liked the relationship between Sung Gi-hun and Jun-ho, for example, especially since they're both trying to accomplish the same goal for different reasons. I mean, yes, they both want to stop the games, but Jun-ho also wants to get his brother back. Sung Gi-hun, conversely, has become more utilitarian over the years, since he seems to be more interested in stopping the games than being reunited with his own daughter. But we already know that Sung was a flawed character, so this new altruistic personality of his could also be rooted in that flaw. Because now, instead of gambling his life away in the pursuit of money, he's gambling his money away in the pursuit of ending the games. He has no reason to believe that he could be the one to stop the shady organization that has been operating for several decades now, but he had no reason to believe that he would go on to become a millionaire either. So that belief is just part of what makes him who he is. Sure, he can do some good by just being a father to his daughter, but he can probably do some more good by stopping hundreds of people from being killed every year. So who am I to judge where his values are? I mean, if I made millions of dollars from winning Squid Game, I, like most people I imagine, would probably just run for the hills and happily live off of my newfound wealth. So a part of me really respects Sung Gi-hun for trying to put an end to these evil games. But as anyone could have predicted, Season 2 of Squid Game doesn't exactly end on a conclusive note. Yes, much like most other sequels, the finale to Squid Game's second season ends on a huge cliffhanger. And while that may not have worked for some audience members, I actually really liked the finale. I mean, considering that this is the middle portion of the story, I don't mind seeing that this was the darkest or lowest point of Sung Gi-hun's character journey. I thought it actually made the season feel a lot like The Empire Strikes Back, and I know that comparison has definitely been overused, but I think it actually works pretty well here. So my issue with season 2 has nothing to do with how the story came to an abrupt halt, but how the story basically stopped focusing on Jun-Ho's storyline completely. Once Sung Gi-hun makes it back into the Squid Games, the show doesn't know what to do with Jun-Ho's character anymore. And that was really disappointing, especially considering how important his character felt in episodes 1 and 2. And he's not the only character whose development gets stunted midway through the season. His brother Inho, for example, does have a much larger role to play in this season, and while his character is admittedly fascinating, I have no idea what his character motivations were. Yes, his character did add a lot of tension throughout the season, but since Sung Gi-hun never found out his character's true identity, I feel like that tension never really went anywhere. So I concede on the criticism that this season doesn't feel like a fully fleshed out season in and of itself, but my criticism focuses more on the character arc specifically, rather than the overarching narrative. That being said, I still really liked the rest of the season. Sure, the actual games weren't quite as shocking as the ones from the first season, but they were still pretty damn fun to watch. The characters may have been a little more hyper-exaggerated, and the acting may not have worked for everyone, but I thought all of the characters were fascinating, and that every performer did a really solid job with their respective role. Plus, the direction is great, the music is great, and the themes, while admittedly heavy-handed, are still inherently interesting. So, despite how anyone else may have felt about it, Squid Game Season 2 would still get a recommendation from me. Showrunner Hwang Dong-hyuk is clearly a talented storyteller, and his work on this season only continues to prove that. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the next and final season of Squid Game once it gets released on June 27th.